What's up, wrestling fans, trading card collectors? Welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Cards. Today is part one. That's right, it's an interview series that's been broken into two parts. Part one with Evan Bovee. You may have seen Evan on Twitter chopping it up with the wrestling card community, maybe posting some stuff on Instagram, or maybe running some hot sales on Whatnot. While Evan is well known in the wrestling card community, I think this maybe is one of his first appearances on a podcast or a video interview series. I had such a great time chopping it up with Evan that, like I said, I had to break this into two separate parts, so you'll get a part two next week. On part one, today's episode, we talk to Evan about how he got into wrestling, how he got into wrestling cards, what he's currently collecting, and much more. We also discuss the kind of popular topic, the fake Hulk Hogan autographs that are getting by PSA. Very hot topic. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. But before we get into part one with Evan Bovee today, I got to run through. There's some of you out there that are like, oh, just jump forward, jump to the content. Clearly, these people don't understand how marketing and word of mouth and all of the things go to keep content creators putting stuff out. But that being said, I'll try to make it quick. You're already here, hit that subscribe button, give me a like if you've enjoyed this video or any of my other videos. I talked about sharing, that's how content grows. Share it with a friend, share it with a wrestling fan, content creator, sports card collector, it doesn't matter, just share this video with everyone you think would enjoy it. Check out the podcast I'm a part of, Wrestling with Cards, the podcast, that's my solo podcast, as well as the Worlds Collide podcast with myself and Tony Vella, each week putting out a new episode every Wednesday morning. And both of those are available on all popular podcast platforms, so whatever you're listening to podcasts on, go ahead and search for those and hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to help contribute to my content monetarily, check out Wrestling with Cards on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. That's right. There's only a couple things you can buy in this world for $1 anymore, and this is one of them. You can have your name in the credits of the videos like these fine folks here who continue to show their support. And there's some other tiers you can get extra stuff in, and there's a lot more bonus content, much more out there. You can go dig into that at your leisure. You can also check out my eBay store, Beast Mode Collectibles. We've got a ton of wrestling cards on there for as little as $1.50 shipped out the door. So you can be a part of the Patreon for $1. You can buy a wrestling card for $1.50. $2.50 showing your support for all of this content. We appreciate it. You can check me out on social media. I mentioned sharing this video, this channel, the podcast that I'm a part of on social media. Feel free to tag me in at Zhan Morning, pretty much all social platforms. And of course, buying me a coffee. Got to stay caffeinated to keep these videos going. But enough of that. Let's talk to Evan Bovee. Here's part one. We've got Evan on the show finally after talking back and forth for what seems like forever, even though it's not been forever on social media. Welcome. Glad to have you on finally.
Thanks, man. Glad to be here. You know, we actually live probably like 30, 40 minutes apart.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. Our schedules, too, are completely nuts, both of us. So, we had talked about meeting up at that local card show, which was this past weekend. And, of course, I worked the whole weekend and had all kinds of stuff going on.
I was going to ask you if you even went. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard there was some cool stuff, but some people I talked to said that a lot of the dealers were actually only taking cash only, and they went in ready with cards and PayPal and Venmo, and like nobody was taking that stuff. So interesting turn of events.
See, I've always skeptical to go because I figure the amount of wrestling that will be there will be so slim that it won't even be worth driving up there.
Right. Yeah.
However, you just never know. And especially at Relics, there's that one guy, if you first walk in all those glass cases, like 6 rows back on the right side of it, he's got some wrestling in there now. And I've picked off some Liv and Ronda Rousey rookies he had in there for a couple dollars. That's about it.
I guess you never know, too. Some of these guys that just maybe threw wrestling on the side 10, 15 years ago are in the miscellaneous non-sport box for $1. You never know what you're going to see in there.
I know. It's kind of funny how it works out to like the stuff that we like, people really don't know how to put a price on it. So instead of spending a few extra minutes and maybe quickly looking up a couple, they'd rather just put it for $1 and who cares?
Yeah. So I want to circle back around to the beginning of this because correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I've seen you on any kind of platforms for podcasts or videos. This may be your first time, even though I know
the very first time. I did a quick little Whatnot thing with Jesse, who's Shui Nostalgia, and we did like a little thing. And that was the night that the rapper came on and it crashed the whole man, what was his name?
Was it Drake? When was it?
Post Malone. It was
when he was okay. All right.
Yeah. And it totally killed the whole thing, but we had already done it for about 45 minutes, so I felt like we were pretty accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first one. I've even myself thought maybe I'll do a podcast, and I just never have done it because I'd rather just talk with other people. I find it a little more. It sparks memories as you're in conversation, and it can bring you back to these moments that maybe you won't get back to because you're just kind of trying to go through a
Yep.
list of what you want to talk about through the week, and maybe it just doesn't jar that memory. So seeing someone and having them bring up memories helps, the rest of it kind of flow for
And
me.
that's the whole reason I started doing this, because I would see other content creators in different segments of the hobby or anything else I was into doing these interview styles, which it was just fun to, I would see the passion that they have for collecting or the nostalgia and the stories like what you just brought up. So that's why I wanted to give you a chance to get on here and talk about all kinds of things. We're going to run the gamut of topics today. So circling back, because I know not a lot of people probably know, how'd you get into wrestling cards and when did that start?
Okay, it all starts. My mom. I was 2 years old. NWA came to Springfield, Missouri. They were at what used to be SMSU. It was called McDonald Arena, which is where the Bears played basketball. And she got tickets. She had already knew I was interested in it because I would always watch it on TV. She wasn't a big wrestling fan. I think she was just flipping through one day and thought, "Oh, he might like this. He's a boy. He's 2 years old." And of course, like Ultimate Warrior, Road Warriors, anyone with face paint, Hulk Hogan, all that. I ate it all up. And she took me. She said, I think she either won the tickets or I don't know. I think they were really inexpensive. We were like 3 or 4 rows back. She's like, it was maybe half full. The card was like, I have pictures from the event. The card
We
was
got
so
to see
stacked.
these if you haven't posted them yet somewhere.
I will, when I get home, I will scan some of them. I mean, you can just tell how close we were. We were right there. It was Ric Flair and Lex Luger in the main event, Sting versus Muda.
There's your face paint right there.
I mean, Road Warriors. It
Oh
was Road
man,
Warriors
yeah.
versus Mean Mark Green, the Undertaker, and his tag team partner, which was the blonde headed
Is
guy,
it Dan Spivey?
Dan Spivey. They were the skyscrapers
Yep.
back then or something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, dude. There's other pictures of like Norman the Lunatic.
Oh wow,
It's
that's
just
going
that
way
time
back.
period. And so of course, I don't remember going. I still have the original t-shirt that she bought me that night. It was a really small Road Warriors shirt. It's
That's
like
so cool.
gray. And I mean, I think my daughter has already even outgrown it.
Wow.
So the fact that they actually had kids t-shirts there back then, very surprising. At that point, I just remember always being a fan, growing up, always watching it. My mom's best friend would watch me. She would pre-tape wrestling for me, like she had cable. If Survivor Series was on, she would tape it for me. I'd watch it when I'd come over. Getting into wrestling cards, the first cards I ever remember are the 90 Classic.
Oh okay.
However, I did have some of the 1987 tops. I don't know how, I think maybe those were given to me at that time period of collecting wrestling cards. It's not like they were put on the shelves and pulled within 6 months. Back then, it was just a different time. If they didn't sell it in the store, it would stay in the store until it was sold off. They didn't just pull it from the shelf. And so I remember even at a later age, it was 1990 when those classics came out, maybe even like 92, 93, still seeing it at the shelves of Walmart. And of course, at that point, it is starting to get marked down,
Mm-hmm.
like the hanger packs and everything. So I do remember buying those and having those. And then, you kind of had that lull time of like, there's not much there. That 91 Classic came out. Um, got a couple packs of that. You're just a kid. You don't necessarily get exactly what you want
Right.
or how many you want or whatever. So I'm just kind of going off of what I'm seeing in the moment. And I think when I really got back into cards was, of course, when WCW Tops came out. That was just like game changing.
Yep.
So, and that's just kind of how it all began for me.
And then, I don't even know how, I think I saw you on Twitter, maybe randomly one day. Like, that's just kind of how this community has been built. Like, just random people seeing stuff on Twitter.
It's went from me just kind of feeling like, man, I'm just always the weird dude buying all the wrestling to, well, there's a lot more wrestling collectors than I thought. And of course, the Panini emergence has gained all of these more people breaking stuff. it is interesting. It is cool, like people like you and the Card Foundation guys and Tony with all that. It's just kind of cool. And I think in the beginning, I kind of felt like maybe I thought I knew everything. And and as the days go by, you're
Right.
like, I've never even seen that.
And
How
it's
have I
every
never
day with
seen
all
that?
of us.
Yeah.
Like, it just continues.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, I was pretty pompous, thinking I know everything. And then COVID happened, and then everyone starts breaking out pictures of their collection. I'm like, how did I miss that card?
Yep.
You know?
So I've seen you kind of bounce all over the place with what you're showing, but I don't know that you've actually ever said, this is my PC, or I'm trying to put this set together, or whatever. So what exactly are you collecting? What's your mindset right now?
Current collecting, I would say I'm like toes in the water, potentially collecting the full 1985 base set, slabbed up by PSA.
Cool.
About 33%. It's going to take a while. However, because PSA value pricing from the event in July, I've got, probably 20 more cards there that'll help get me closer. I don't know if I'm going to do all of them. I may lose interest before I finish, but that's one thing. Another thing is because I'm so invested in this 85, I've been looking for that damn PSA 10 Hogan 1 or
Yeah.
16 for so long, and it just hasn't happened. I'm okay with that. But now I'm kind of starting to collect the roster base signed.
Yep.
So I've got, I'd say the only ones left that I need to get, I even have like a little list here because it's hard to keep track. Like Captain Lou, JYD. I just got Snuka. I'm still needing to get a Piper, but they go for so much money. And if you've ever looked at how he signed some of those 1985s, he's just written Hot Rod on some of them.
I haven't actually ever seen one of those, so I'm not sure.
I don't want one that says Hot Rod. I want a full Rowdy Piper autograph. So I'm kind of picky, and because of that, I've still got about 7 left. Another one I've never seen, Moondog Spot autograph. Yeah. I don't know. I've never even seen one. The rest of these are probably pretty obtainable. I'm just going to have to pony up when they actually I think what's nice about it is not many people have a bunch of that stuff. So when one does finally go up, it's usually at a time where I'm not having to bid on like 3 or 4 I need. It's usually just that one. Like the Snuka came up, Burbank Sports Cards posted it. I love that shop. I've been there so many times over the years. I used to be their main wrestling purchase guy because
really, that's awesome.
I would travel out there all the time for work, and usually why I've opened so much stuff is I would buy cases and then literally just turn it around, put it right on eBay. Keep what I wanted, put everything else on eBay. Mm-hmm. I would say majority of the time when I buy a case, I keep like maybe 10%, sell the rest.
Sure.
I don't like to clutter up my house, and my wife probably doesn't want me to.
Understandable.
So, and I've got like at home, I'm in a hotel in Iowa right now, but at home, I've got a music room that is literally just, it's all my shit. It's all in there. It's organized, it's not bad. And I have a big storage, like outdoor storage bin that's inside my garage that I keep all my, like, it's pretty sealed. So like I keep all my sealed wax in there and figures. I can almost just have them perfectly in there where they're not getting smashed and no bugs or anything you need in there. But yeah, it's hard. It really is hard, trying to collect stuff. And like, let's say, because like the cards I'm looking for right now, I don't think probably live on many people's searches. So that's good for me.
Yes.
People like Gelman that are Fury, they're going for that Becky Lynch 101 all the time. I feel bad for him because there's a lot of other people that probably collect Becky.
Yep. And I'm starting to have that same problem with Karrion Kross now too. Everybody's coming out of the woodwork.
I know. At least you had that couple years though.
Yeah.
Where you could really pick off what you wanted. And then that quiet time of his, post WWE before the next WWE, man, you were just probably picking them off like crazy then.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm still working on trying to get, there's one superfractor I'm trying to trade for right now. It's the only one that's surfaced that I don't have, believe it or not. Like, so that's a huge accomplishment.
What's crazy is later on, because we feel like I feel like every box has been opened at this point, personally. I know it's not, but it feels like it. And later on, someone's going to crack something that you need.
Yep.
It's just going to happen.
And
it's
then
kind of exciting, though.
Yeah, and I think it parallels with what you were talking about, because you get to a point where you're only looking for certain things, so it's not like those searches. But if he's going to be in the Panini products coming out, that's going to be a whole different thing. Like, I'm going to have to sell all my Rock stuff and all my Hogan stuff if I'm going to be able to pay for all those golds and one of ones and whatever. But
so who else? So other than just carrying, who else do you have that you treat like that? Is Hogan also another guy?
Nope, carrying cross. I've got several Hogans. I've got a bunch of Rock. I've got a cool Brock Lesnar and Dusty Rhodes little Prism projects I've put together that I'm going to do videos on at some point. But like, it's interesting. Like, I find myself kind of doing what you were doing and finding, like, it started with the All-Stars, and then I've kind of started putting like ECW autographs together in just like a fun project. And then I'm going back and there's like some other sets that are only like a few cards, but they're so like rare, obscure. I'm like, this would be fun to put together. So I think it's a good transition back to what you talked about, of all the modern stuff that people clamor for, of all the 80s stuff that people are like, this is what you buy. Like, what made you settle on set collecting 85 tops? Because I think that's a cool idea that not too many people are doing right now, especially in slabs.
I think what it really comes down to is I've opened so much of it now. What really happened was in that spike of COVID. So everyone's going to get a good laugh out of this. It's kind of sucks to me, but it's funny. So about a year before COVID, I was cleaning out my garage, and I kept all of my base wrestling cards. I've always had them. They weren't complete sets, but you just keep them for autographs and stuff. I used to be a big through the mail guy.
Gotcha.
And I would always send out like 2 or 3 cards to each wrestler. So I kind of got to a point where I've just been working in the music industry longer and longer. I know people get annoyed by getting stuff like that in the mail. So because of that, I kind of decided maybe I should leave these guys alone. I mean, Terry Funk announced he's done signing. I know that's because he's getting older in age and kind of forgets certain things of the day. So I just don't want to bother him with that stuff anymore. So I just thought I'm going to get rid of all these base cards because, first of all, they're not worth anything. They're worth like maybe 5 cents a piece. And I had like probably 2 or 3 5-row boxes that I literally burned.
Oh my.
Because I thought, I don't know what to do with this. No one collects wrestling except me. I don't have any other friends that collect wrestling cards. This is all, I mean, unless I just save them all for autographs, I don't need this. So what I did is I kind of picked through all the Hogans and Flairs and Ultimate Warriors and stuff like that. Didn't keep any Rock 98 comic images. I mean, I probably had 2 or 3 different sets of comic images, but not like complete because I've used the other cards to get autographs.
Sure.
But I for sure had all the Rocks because it's not like I ever mailed anything to him to sign.
Right.
And then, of course, you go back to the 2002 Fleer Royal Rumble. No telling how many boxes of that I opened. I had so many of those cards, threw them all away.
That's it. You can't help but just laugh at this point, right?
Yeah, I don't care now, but I remember it clicked, and I just thought, well, I'm starting over fresh again. That PSA 10 Hogan sold for $18,000 at the time. That was the first highest one I'd seen. I thought, I bet I can find one of those. So I just started buying them up. I'd buy every pack I could find for about 50. And then I started noticing the rack packs were nicer condition. I talked to David Peck a lot. He kind of, he's like, yeah, actually, my better cards came from the rack pack. So I just started focusing on those. I think in the beginning, I was finding them for around 125. Then they went up to like 180. Then if you had like a Hogan rookie in the rack pack, they were like 300 or 400, which I never bought those because if you can see that card on the top, it's not going to be a 10 in condition. Right. It's the first card that's getting all the smashing. So even if it was centered, I didn't want it. Or I'd buy it for cheap and maybe flip it sealed still.
Sure.
So I just started acquiring all these cards, looking for the Hogan. As I'm going through it, I'm like, well, that card's really nice. So I just started a separate pile of all the rest of the cards in the set. And then before you know it, I was starting to get 9s and in the mail and stuff. It's kind of hard to get a PSA 10 in that set. At this point, I've only graded 1 PSA 10. and I'll show it to you because it's like you're gonna be like, really? That's the card?
I don't know. The stories you've told so far, I don't know that I'll be surprised.
Okay, out of all the cards I've sent them, this is the card that got a PSA 10.
That's a good one, though.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of confusing though. I've got so many of the Hogans and all that. They're just 9s and 8s and 7s, but that was when it was cheaper, so it didn't matter. But I just wanted to, after I started sending them all in, I just thought, well, hell, I've already got, at the time, I thought I at least got a quarter of them already.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept buying and buying, looking for more Hogans. And along the way, you just kept piling them up. I think I could probably finish this before the year's over because I got 10 more packs at home I haven't even opened yet. And with what's going to come back, the only stuff I kept is like, if it's not a 9, I'll be surprised. Like,
gotcha.
I started getting super picky with all my PSA stuff since it had went up from $10 or $12.
Right.
And that's just kind of where I came to with all that.
So do you have any kind of like actual nostalgic connection with the 85, or was it one of those things where you randomly just kind of stumbled into it and now it's become the chase with kind of it's not like you're just, hey, I'm putting a set together. It's, I'm trying to get some of these signed. I'm trying to get the set registry going.
I think what's weird about it is out of all those cards, I've never actually went to any of the wrestlers and had them sign any, like at a signing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's cheaper that way, but I feel like it is because what I've been doing is just been saving searches for PSA 1985, WWF Tops, Auto, or whatever. And you'll just never, like, some of these cards, like, of course I had to get a Paul Orndorff after he had passed, so it went up more. So here's this one, and I think I paid like $80 for it. That's cheap.
That's cheap, all things considering. Yeah.
I think I got some of these from cool. Wrestling Card King himself. So like this one. Okay, so this is a card that sits on eBay for $125 all the time. You just wait for them to list it at 99 cents, Yeah. That's my usual move. I got this for like $60. And it even has the auto grade on it, so that's a little more nice. Mm-hmm. This one was kind of weird. He's got a really big autograph there.
Yeah, and his autos like seem to change. He does, which we're going to talk about changing autographs later in the show. But yeah, I've noticed his autographs are interesting.
I liked this one a lot because it's very centered.
Yep.
And I was starting to get picky on, well, what color marker am I choosing and this and that. But like with this Iron Sheik card, you can't sign blue or can't see it. Mm-hmm. So I had to make exceptions. Like this Hillbilly Jim, he didn't really sign it in the best spot.
It's still visible.
It's a nice visible signature. So you kind of go in waves of all that. And I think my last one that I got that was kind of, I didn't know if I'd ever find it, is I finally got a cheap
wow. Yeah.
For cheap. For like really cheap, like it was like $60 to $80,
Yeah, that's cheap.
Couldn't believe it. So, and that's just, I've got like my people left: Captain Lou, JYD, Piper, Big John Studd. That's easily, if you want a nice one, that's like 300. Mm-hmm. Fabulous Moolah, and I surprisingly haven't seen too many of those floating around. Mr. Fuji, which he used to sign through the mail, so I know that's going to be easy. And then the Moondog one. So,
do you find yourself having more fun focusing on this and worrying about what color of paint to use on the paint pen or Sharpie and what kind of grades and kind of the scavenger hunt of trying to put this together? Are you able to like focus on having fun and like block out all the crap that's around you that you don't like to hear about? Because especially right now with pricing, like people are freaking out. Like, I'm getting out of the hobby, and I'm like, guys, there's so much fun to be had.
Luckily, I don't have all these cards I've overinvested in, and I'm sure you're probably the same.
Yeah.
And even, in the height, the past couple months has been wild. I've been seeing stuff go up for sale that I'm like, man, I've been looking for this forever. Right. And that's like a decent price, you think to a year ago, everything you were buying, if you were buying a specific card, was full price probably, mm-hmm. So at that time, I wasn't necessarily buying as much for my personal collection as I was looking for deals to flip things.
Right.
Now I've just been seeing so much stuff go for so little that I still can't help myself and pick up a few things here and there,
Right.
even if it's not necessarily something I collect, because I'm just like, well, when everyone gets their footing back, and this is going to still be a big card,
Yep. Yeah, I
it's
see stuff out.
$100 cheaper now than it will be in like a few months. So
Yeah, I still do that too if I see something that's just not as much as I used to, but sometimes things just make sense, if you see it and you're like, I better jump on this or it's not gonna.
it's hard. It's hard to decipher, because then it kind of makes you wonder, well, he's priced it at this. What does he know that I don't know? Is this a card that has just been graded so significantly now that no one cares?
Yeah.
That's like, and I'm not like I'm not necessarily a Roman guy, but I kind of hopped on that train when everything, like in the past couple months,
Mm-hmm.
because it was kind of a good time to buy.
Right.
I even did a whatnot the other night and bought into this 3 box break from these random guys that could not even call
Oh boy.
wrestling names. I'm calling them out. It was
Good.
horrible.
Good.
Anyways, I got out of the Revolution box. I had the letter R. They pulled a Roman Reigns auto. I was like,
Nice.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I got super lucky. And I think I'm going to keep the card. Like, I don't necessarily feel like it's going down, but it is selling for cheap right now. Like, to buy the redemptions like $80.
Oh my,
And
I
that
didn't
seems
realize they were
cheap
that
for
low.
Roman. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. That you have to be paying attention to the market, or sometimes you're going to overpay.
Right.
Heat of the moment, like going into card shops. I went to one when I was in Grand Rapids. I went to go see my grandma on a day off, and after that, I went to this card shop, and the guy told me, he said he broke 20 cases of Prism.
Oh wow.
And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, because if we were just going to sell them for $300 or $400, and I've got, I think he had just paid the dealer price, which is like 150, 200. He was like, it's worth it for me to just crack all these and pull all the cards and selling them separate and making my money. He had so many amazing duels and golds, and the biggest card I bought, which was probably the most I've spent on a card in a while, was I paid $225 for a Charlotte Becky dual auto.
Oh,
It was
that's
the one
cool.
out of 5 or 10 or something. It's kind of a big card, and the fact that they seem like they have real life heat, it just made me want the card more.
And honestly, that's a pretty good. I would say that's a like average price for a duel of them that I've seen.
Yeah. So I didn't really overpay, but now would I have preferred to pay like 175? Yeah.
Sure.
But I couldn't get the guy to go down that far because he's showing me these previous sold prices of like 300. I did talk him down, but it wasn't like what I wanted. And so sometimes you have to make these quick decisions like, hey, I'm here right now. I see the card. I like how the autos look. Maybe I should just get this one because there's only 9 other versions. And I know
Right.
Gelman's got one. So there's really 8 other versions.
Right. Yeah, it gets pretty crazy. And that's something I don't think people understand, Prism, like everybody kind of is taking a dump on it right now because of the pricing and falling on. So they don't understand how the golds and the mojos and the out of 5s and the black 1-of-1s, like the significance that those are going. They already have significance, but what they're going to look like in even 5 years from now.
I know it's the first. They can crap all over it they want, but either way, it was the first Panini release. Now, do we look at Fleer? Their first release is special? No. But those cards were just like very boring, basic cards. So that's why I can say safely, well, there's numbered and parallels. And what I find interesting is I noticed as I was getting older that, like, you'd have an autograph of someone that would sell for like $50. But if you had a parallel of that out of like 10 or 25 that was not autographed, it would sell for more than the autograph.
Yep.
And I was just like, the tide is changing, and it's not just about autographs, because trust me, there are plenty of autographs on eBay right now. If you keep searching, you're going to find eventually the price you want to pay. These parallels, though, if you're the only person with it at the moment, good on you, man.
Yeah.
You're going to be, I broke a bunch of select on Whatnot. I haven't even seen any of it in person yet. I've literally not even opened a pack at all, but I've had probably about 2 or 3 boxes worth open on Whatnot. It's a very weird time.
Yeah, and I think that's something that the wrestling community has really struggled with. You know, they would see the Topps Chrome or Finest, but it was really this Panini switch. And, you know, I'll credit guys like Card Foundation and some of the other people out there that are more into the modern stuff for like trying to wave the flag and put the information out there for some of these older wrestling card collectors or people just getting into it that, you know, especially with the sticker autos, the autos aren't they're cool, but they're not the be all end all. Like these parallels are what is kind of pushing our niche of the hobby forward, you know, to the moon, so to speak.
I'm sure you've talked about it before in your podcast. You know, there's always going to be a debate. What's better, is the sticker auto, the on-card auto? And here's my answer. At this point, I don't care. And here's why. If the auto does not go past the sticker measurement, that's fine with me.
Sure.
Now, and this is going kind of into what we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Like this Hogan right here, it's off the line. Like when they pulled that sticker off, they left some of the autograph there. So that's kind of a bummer. Even this, so this is a dual. I got this in a break. I spent about like $150 and I got this. I got lucky. Even Tyson, it's really good till you get about right here, and then you lost the rest of that. There's certain things like that I will be like, I don't know. You know, and of course, there's certain guys that sign that always go off the line. John Cena could care less if all of his lines are like some of these sticker autographs. You're like, gosh, that's what the autograph is. It's missing like a third of it.
That was part 1. Stick around next week for part 2. Evan Bovee, what a great guest, and what a great member of the wrestling car community. And don't forget, before you get out of here, check the show notes. I've got links to Evan's social page down there, and of course links to all of the other ways that I've already talked about of how you can help show your support for this channel, my podcast, and the content that I do in general. Just keep it going. So until next time, part 2, stick around for that next week. Click the videos on the screen for more great wrestling card content. I'll see you there.